All right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good evening.
And in case we don't see you, good night.
A redneck and immigrant walk into a bar.
Indeed.
What happens?
This is our official 12th episode.
An even dozen. 12 episodes.
We've had a few that we don't count, but this is our official 12th. Not the baker's dozen.
No, and that's because there was a few of them that shouldn't count.
That's very fair.
Yeah.
Let's hope this one counts. Let's just hope this one counts.
No, but 12 of them are not, a fine start.
Yeah, and some people are actually watching us, and we're very grateful and thankful for subscribers, for people who watch. So what should we discuss? It's, by the way, for people who are seeing us first time, it's complete improv. This is Jim, I'm Alex. You can guess which one is the redneck, which one is the immigrant. And we don't prepare. It's just we share, we come up with a topic at the podcast.
It's quasi-spontaneous.
I call it improv. That sounds more...
That's a
big word for an immigrant.
Much better word. I think that based on our history, we have really moved around the topic carousel.
We have.
I mean, it is all
family, politics, religion touch.
It can be anything really.
So what do we do today?
So it could be one little trigger, and I saw this well-known quote. Although I think that as I looked it up, it's from Einstein.
That's smart. Einstein? Einstein Albert.
You know
okay.
the I before E rule?
Tell me.
I before E, except sometimes after Y.
No, enlighten me. I'm sure I know it by practice, but tell me the rule.
If you're spelling the word field, it's always I before E.
Okay.
Okay. Which is a common rule.
Right.
Before E. Except in the name Einstein. Who got it wrong twice. Okay, anyway, I digress. I think people have paraphrased what Einstein was alluding to when he talked about technology versus humanity.
Okay.
He said when man's technology outstrips his humanity, we are in trouble. Now, I'm not sure he was referring directly to the nuclear program, but that's when it came out.
Possibly, the whole Manhattan Project.
And that technology...
Certainly.
Was about to supersede man's humanity, that decision...
I thought you were going to say explode.
Well, that's too. So, I think maybe he was referring directly to that. There's no evidence of that. And then people started to kind of paraphrase what he was saying, but that's the gist of it.
Okay.
So when technology, the technology aspect of our lives now is overwhelming.
It's everywhere.
So these hot buttons of AI and whether it be... Now, much of it is highly valuable.
Absolutely.
Okay. This.
Yes, that.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit.
So what would you call that?
Well, it's fantastic that we all have little computers in our hands all the time. And roughly 98% of America has one.
Okay. Well, I want to meet those 2%. Well, unless they're newborn. Are they 98% of the people who would have had them, or newborns are in that 100?
If you can afford one, you have one.
I mean, you can go to a grocery store and buy one for $20. I've seen them hanging. I don't know who buys them, but I've seen them. I've seen in movies or series that criminals buy. They call them burner phones.
Oh yes, yeah, I've seen the same series. I think that a lot of people now are complaining about certain aspects of technology, specifically this, in regard to parenting, to teenagers, to mental health, and is it contributing to the lack thereof?
Right.
And I realize this happened to us in an earlier episode. I was complaining about airline travel.
You've complained a lot.
I complain a lot, and I hate flying. I said I think it's a nightmare. Air travel, and then someone pointed out, as they like to do, in one of the peanut gallery. I'm sure that the 49ers, that is a reference to 1850s California gold rush. I know that in Armenia, they're not aware of these things.
I thought you were talking about the football team.
Yeah, well, they weren't in existence, but those people and the people who were the frontiersmen matriculated towards California, I'm sure they don't want to hear me complain about how it took me 4.5 hours.
Right.
Of watching 2 movies and eating sun chips to get to California.
Being in a chair like a Greek god.
Yes.
In the first class, as I know you always.
Well, I come from last class, my heritage, but I'm talking about the Greek Italians, of course.
I thought you were talking more about Armenians.
So, do you really want to complain about how it took you 4.5 hours when you think that 180 years ago, you would be in a covered wagon?
Yep.
What do you think they would think about airline travel? Yeah, that's called perspective. I get it. Okay. And then same with this
device.
Someone is going to say, well, yes, you're right about that, but what about?
Yeah.
What about
these
amazing advantages? Yes, I get that. But who among us who has teenagers now is not really, really worried about the first thing in the morning, the last thing at night, the interruption of education, the social media and its negative influences on young people? I mean, parents in general are all aware of this. I mean, you have still young kids. Is this
we both do.
Well, mine are in their 20s, but still teenagers.
Yeah.
Is this something that is on your radar of something?
Absolutely. It has been for a number of reasons. I think one of them would be the absolute dependency on this thing that almost becomes an extension of you. Mm-hmm. Like old warriors would say that your weapon, be that sword or maybe gun, is an extension of you. Full Metal Jacket, right? It's my rifle. Mm-hmm. Right? And here, we have a generation all around the world. This is not an American phenomenon. Arguably, there are countries that probably have it worse. I'm sure there are some countries who have it a little less so, but I think this perpetual attachment to something that was designed with good in mind, right? If we look at the concept of having a device that could give you ability to communicate with your people you want to, ability to give you maps, ability to search, find answers, not search, right? So it's a good thing, but it also kind of like being an engineer, right? Any technology and advancement comes with tremendous good and not so, right? I think your earlier reference to Einstein and Manhattan Project, nuclear energy, what a wonderful, wonderful thing that could be, right? I'm sure we're probably taking the fruits of it right now through electric power and all that. But meanwhile, it also can be this horrific thing that could end the world as we know it. So back to the device and teenagers, I think their utter dependency is not even the right word. Their attachment dependency, I think I'll come up with a better word for it, to it can be damaging, and we can probably explore the word damaging because I don't even know which aspect of that I'm highlighting to them. Sure. It's over reliance. Well, let me, with your permission, let me go off in almost a tangent, but very relatable. You and I are old enough to remember when we had those foldable maps in our cars, where if you had to get from destination A to destination B, either you or person next to you would open up that map. We were in Connecticut for 14 years. I knew Connecticut. I still do like the back of my hand because everything was on the map, and you know that Merritt Parkway goes this way, I-91 goes, right? And you kind of know every exit and a gas station that you need to come out to call on the phone and say you're in traffic, right? Here we are now, we have this beautiful, gorgeous navigation system, right? And whatever your choice is, Waze or Google Maps or Apple Maps or what have you, I find myself, if you tell me, Alex, I'm in Lawrenceville, I'm going to go to Newnan and then stop by Gwinnett, and I feel, and I'm not going to make a stereotype of 50s housewife, that will be inappropriate, but I have no visual of it, right? Because coming to your house, even though I know the route, I just put it in Waze and I got here. So it made me brain dead, but not as I'm not using that euphemism, I'm actually using it fairly literally. Those synapses in my brain, they stopped working because my brain found that I don't need to use them any longer because there is a thing for it, right? So I think the generation of past 10 plus years and generations to come, their over-reliance on this wonderful device, iPhone, Galaxy, whatever, right? So with no particular brand, I think kids they're probably more religious toward iPhone. It's fantastic. You know where they are, right? If you're a parent worried where your kid, many other things. But also they become so over-reliant on things that they need answers to in their lives that you could argue the case that, and I've had this conversation with my children, right? Why do I need to know that I can easily find the answer? Which we're probably spilling a little bit, I'm spilling a little bit from this phone device into AI world a little bit. But, and I'm sorry, I'm talking way too much, let me hand it back to you. But I think absolutely seeing that, waking up with the phone, going to sleep with the phone, and by the way, I'm talking about them, same thing applies to us. I would argue the point, you have the same problem, I have the same problem, very likely our spouses, our beautiful spouses, and many of our friends, if not all. So that's where it become almost a intrusion into our lives, where there are a lot of good things coming from it. We're learning, we're reading, we're up to date on things, but also we are over-reliant on something that is outside of what God created us as we are.
Let me tell you about two things I've observed at my local fitness club. One, believe it or not, in yoga class, yes, folks, I am evolved enough to say that I own a yoga mat, and I take it into.
I think we should end it right about here, and those will be your last words of our podcast.
No, something my wife and I can do together.
Okay.
Yoga. And that's a subject for another day. But something I observed is there's about 25 to 30 people in this class lying on their mats in a pose that is supposed to increase flexibility of the body and the mind. Okay. There's a certain zen to it.
Yep. And
as you're sitting there, sometimes it's very quiet. There's just a little background going on, sort of a drone, if you will.
Right.
And your eyes wander around, and I look over, and there is an older gentleman in the corner over there, and he's looking at his phone during yoga class.
Right.
Okay. This stands out as an anomaly because I've never seen this before. People don't have their phones. It's understood that your phone is off and put away. Yoga.
My knowledge of yoga are like your knowledge of some distant country.
Right.
You know it exists, but so yoga, you don't have the headset, music blasting. It's more of a mind meditation, mind body whole thing. So phones are out. Yeah. So that gentleman having a phone, that's an anomaly. Okay, please carry on.
Because you don't want to be, it's very zen, it's very quiet, let's all, it's a place to go to disconnect. And the instructor, your Sherpa, will say, By the way, let's respect everyone's space and make sure our phones are off and our Apple Watches, etc. Let's disconnect from the technology.
Okay.
That's why we're here.
Right.
And this guy is looking at a phone during yoga. Move to the steam sauna, which is also a place theoretically that's to go to disconnect. And there's a guy in there, and he's holding a phone with his
earpiece.
AirPods
Yep.
in. First, I'm wondering, how are they that waterproof that you're okay in the sauna? I don't know. I think they are for a time. But apparently, you can take your phone in a wet sauna. I wouldn't take mine for various reasons. Right. This guy has, he can't disconnect in the sauna. The other man can't disconnect in yoga class. I think this is a byproduct of the addiction, to use the word, that we have to the technology, which is a negative, a definite negative. And I realize that I have got to try. Recently, my wife texted me, and we were both in the house.
That happened to us too. Dinner, my wife would say dinner time, and if not getting the answer from the basement or second floor, text, come on down.
We're texting each other, and we're in the same. So I think self-governing is hard to do, but I have tried to separate myself, for example, from so much immersion in political information. Because I realized it was starting to make me nuts.
Yeah, it can be daunting because I think some of the so-called intelligent agents behind any social network or any news outlet, not any, but most of the fairly sophisticated news outlets, once they see the pattern of things that you like to see, they double down on that. So now you're seeing thing that, like, I know, right? This shouldn't be, and doesn't matter if you're right, left, middle, center, whatever. It just feeds you that, and it almost becomes this daunting, the kind of hammering, 1984. That's a reference to a book.
Orwell?
Yeah, indeed. Where it's constant. I'm going to use the word propaganda in a way. It's interesting. Some of the words just became absolutely negative connotation, period. But their inception was not bad, including the word politician. Actually, it's not a bad I would say the origin of the word, all right, is not a bad one, Greek origin, or propaganda. Burns wrote a phenomenal book. Actually, I've read it a couple of times, of propaganda, which then turned into more advertising as we know it today, which is an extension. If you think of the Russian doll, Matryoshka, one inside the other, right? So propaganda, and then within that you have the advertising and then after that corporations call it PR, right? Public relations, but it's an extension. So those outlet channels that feed us the so-called, let's call it news, they are they have those funnels, guardrails, the ones that more suitable to you, which almost emphasize the point. It just becomes this vicious cycle of constant. So to your point, I think you were going with that you try to disconnect from it. So during the yoga class, how long is it? Is it an hour, I'm assuming?
60 minutes.
60 minutes. So 60 minutes, there is zero phone. You're disconnected. Do you feel that disconnection? It's a twofold question. During the class, do you feel that something is just not right? Right? Like, if I don't have the watch on me or my cross chain, right? Something is not right with my body, right? It's just a thing that I've been doing it for decades and decades. So during those 60 minutes, do you feel something that is not right? And the second question is, as soon as you finish the class, within first 60 seconds, are you on the phone or not? So if I may ask that question.
I know that the instructors will emphasize at the beginning, let your thoughts turn away from the day-to-day.
Yep.
The traffic, the phone call that's due, the things that are constantly pressuring you, let's let those not be here now.
Okay.
So it's just designed to disconnect.
Okay.
And to free yourself of that and to let your mind clear. And so this is the good part about it, the Zen part of it, as well as the of course the flexibility and the stretching is a good thing. So I think that's why people enjoy it so much. And keep in mind, they've been doing this in India for thousands of years. I mean, so. But that's not the point. The point is people go there to escape this.
Okay.
People go to that steam room. There's not a lot of banter.
Sure.
It's men in towels.
In Germany it's a little different, right?
I know it's complete. But in America, it is a mostly silent ritual. And everyone understands.
Right.
I'm not here to meet people for the most part. There is another story, but we don't have time for that. But then you'll have a guy bring the phone. So he can't even go in the steam room without it. And so this leads me to one big point. What if, and here, this is conspiracy theorism.
I love it. Let's go.
The Trojan horse. The Trojan horse. Let's get everybody one of these, and let's constantly hit them with advertisements. Let's tell them what to buy. Let's predict what they want to buy by listening to their somehow. Not listening to our conversations, but picking up on the data, the algorithm that picks up on the data. If I search for a golf glove, I am going to start getting inundated by adverts for golf paraphernalia. I get how they're doing it. I mean, I open the door by searching, and then they are able to, hit me with constant adverts. I mean, whoever they are, they can hit us with all kinds of information. In order for this hive mentality.
I just want to clarify one point. What was the conspiracy on this one?
The conspiracy is they are they trying to influence our modes of thinking, the way we vote, the things we eat? Sure they are.
Yeah. It's a social engineering of our behavior, and our behavior could manifest itself in our day-to-day purchases, our election choices, or what have you. I'm not saying they have 100% accuracy or success rate, but certainly I think this is the first time in our human history where we have this ubiquitous device if I may broad brush, I understand statistically may be inaccurate, but 100% of Americans have this thing, doesn't matter the brand, let's call it iPhone or Galaxy, doesn't matter, but this thing that is on them pretty much every minute of their not sleeping hour, and oftentimes during the sleeping you still have tune on a phone. If it rings, you're going to answer, which, I mean, you could argue the case the rotary phone was the same. But it's remarkable where, you have about half a dozen, I'm an engineer, I love technology. Let me make that true. Right. Half a dozen companies in West Coast of California, West Coast of United States, that conceivably have a potential, I'm going to choose my words carefully so I don't eat them later, have what's a softer version of word control, right? That to billions of people worldwide. Manage, yeah. Manage. It has a softness to it. I think conceivably controlling aspect of it, right? You have potential. I'm not saying they are or they're not. I'm not going to argue the point, because you could argue both cases and you'll be right. In some cases, they have control, and then in front of Congress, they apologize for it. In some cases, they did not control. You perceived as being controlled. You know, how many times you heard this conversation? I was talking to my wife, I was talking to my husband, and I mentioned about the couch or a billiard table, and suddenly we have the advertisement on TV or on my phone. So I don't know. Maybe it's voodoo. Maybe it's real, Alexa or phone or listening or what have you. However, just to my point, and number is, accuracy of the number is not there, not necessary, but half a dozen companies controlling arguably 3 to 4 billion, ability to control, potential to control 3 to 4 billion people, 5 billion people worldwide. That's remarkable. With pretty much 100% of United States, right? Because you're either or on, Facebook or Google or Amazon. I'm not saying they're social networks. I'm just saying the companies that have that connectivity into you, or Apple or Twitter or whatever, right? LinkedIn, the business network, right? That's my only social network. That's why I had to finagle that in there. But to your point about Trojan horse, and the Trojan horse was an interesting Greek invention. I don't know if it's how true it is or legendary, but still, I think they've got into us because of the beauty of it, right? Searchability, getting answers, connecting with people you want to connect immediately, knowing where they are, finding the store that you're looking for, making the restaurant reservation. So all the positive things are still there. However, just like with a potentially nuclear technology, you also have the social behavior engineering, where, especially for minds that are still developing, where you could form, shape, sculpt their thinking through their device that parents or school have virtually no control over. Please chime in. Schools, on the school subject. I thought I said school, and I saw you tilting, so I thought maybe you want to say something about schools.
No.
There are some schools, my high school that my son is in, no more phones.
That is becoming ubiquitous.
And it's interesting. It's not that the school is prohibiting a technology. I think what they're trying to achieve is the behavior. It's something that the technology affects their behavior, that they're trying to move away from. It's not like they don't want calculators to be used or phones to be used. It's more around how it's affecting their day-to-day behavior. And of course, we hear the stories from teenage, really bad things happening through the phone on social media. I won't go into any particular cases, but so certainly it's interesting when you talk about yoga. And I remember we had a couple of leadership retreats. There were one place in California. I was there with 2 different companies, where you get to this beautiful place in Northern California, Sequoia Forest and all that, and pretty much you have no phone service other than you have to get out of this compound, go on a hill there to get some 1 or 2 bars. Otherwise, you don't have it. And it's interesting. It's really it gives you just a little bit of a almost like it reshapes you a little bit. Your mind is a little bit different. Right? Jim, here's what I'll tell you. How often, and I'm going to ask you, but really through you, it's going to be a more wider question. When was the last time you were bored? We don't have any more room for boredom, because as soon as that, even the inkling of that feeling of boredom comes in, the phone, and I don't want to, technology device comes into play. It could be the Apple Watch. Most of the time it's phone, right? So we don't allow ourselves to be bored. Is it good or bad? I'm not a judge. I'm not that smart. But certainly, for thousands of years, people had this moment where just, what are you doing? Nothing. But now if I say, what are you doing? Nothing, you're on your phone.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Please.
There's so much.
Yeah, I feel like we're opening this, and we can go in so many directions, and they're all valid and interesting.
There's no way we can even begin to cover what we're, the gold we're mining here. It just goes on and on.
Oh, yeah.
One one thing sprung to mind is the cynicism that this it breeds in that fact that now we don't think anything is real. Okay.
Elaborate, please. I understand what you're saying, but I want to make sure that I understand correctly.
I don't even want to even go down to AI.
But stay away from AI for now. Let's have another.
We can come back to that.
Real part.
But the thing is now I read things and see things, and I'm cynical.
Right, I see.
That this is real.
How real? If Walter Cronkite said something 50 years ago, you knew that was pretty much in double quotes, lowercase, biblical, right? Here you read something, you don't know if it has been generated, if it's some kind of a propaganda coming from an enemy country, or one side of the left or right or middle trying to say something.
Well, I'm cynical right off the bat.
Right.
Is this AI? Is this real? Is there a filter on this?
Yeah.
I saw an article, it goes by, and Bruce Springsteen had died.
Oh, geez.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, a year ago, or 3 years ago, I would have said,
oh my, yeah. You would have,
no.
Yeah, the boss.
Immediately, I dismiss it.
Right.
Immediately.
Yeah.
I'm sure he didn't die.
Yeah.
This is just you can just go in there and say anybody died.
Right.
Picture Bruce Springsteen. Why would you do that? I don't know. I don't know how you monetize that.
But I'm not suggesting that. You drive eyeballs or traffic, right? That's essentially what the heading of your, right? The Paul McCartney is not real, and you drive traffic to it, or we'll solve Kennedy's assassination, or something along those lines. But I think your point, I don't want to deviate, is that
the fact is he was in fact very much alive.
Thank God.
And you're like, yeah, of course. So now you read these, Bruce Springsteen's dead, and then you just pass it by because it's not true.
I think what we want to do, if you agree with this, let's talk about that topic, that subject, and explore that room of the house of our conversation around AI, generated content, potentially killing creativity, and some of our. It's interesting that when you and I were growing up, some of the things we had to learn. Let's do something simple, right? World War II started, official dates, September 1st, right? Germany enters Poland, UK declares a war, and then 2 weeks later, Soviet Union enters Poland from the east, depending on how you look, what side you look from, right? So the declaration of, or beginning of official date of World War II. And it ends, you can make the case, May 8th or 9th, depending on what country you're celebrating, and there was some continuity in Austria and Far East, get it, right? And it ends. And we learned those dates. And it was like, I'm sure we had exams and all that. And now teenagers, I've had not exactly this one, but conversations similar to this with my son. Right? He says, why would I need to know, meaning remember, like have it here in my date, right? That date, for example. And this is maybe a silly small example where I can look it up. I can get the answer within a second.
Well, Einstein, my second Einstein reference at one.
Today you're on an Einstein horse.
Yeah,
that's a better reference.
Man said, why memorize something you can look up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he's talking about wasting brain power and energy memorizing something when you could just file it away and reference it later. So there may be some logic to it. That's why you wore the same shirt and tie and
I get that.
Think about it.
I think, I want to take the Einstein's quote that you just made, separate it from him because he's in this unicorn genius hemisphere. Bring it into us, and I don't have an answer for this, but it's an interesting thing for me, like agreeing with that or not. Because when you talk to or listen to people who are incredibly read, I take pride in my voracious reading, incredibly, and I'm not saying I'm one of them, but you could see that their brain, and by the way, I think, and I could be bastardizing statistics, well, 80% of statistics is made up. Right? So about 90% of our brain discoveries have been made in past decade or two. So we don't know exactly how our brains function. So again, decoupling from Einstein himself, but the quote itself, if you remember things, are you taking a compartment utilization from something else being there or not? I don't agree with that, but I'm not saying I'm right. Those are my thoughts on that, right? Just because, let's say, hypothetically, just a number, I've read 10,000 books and my retention rate will be probably less than 5%, but and somebody read 10 books, again, arbitrary numbers. Does it mean that his or her brain is more open to get more valuable information than my or somebody else's brain who read 10,000 books? Open-ended question mark. A little bit. It's not. I'm not saying it's a kind of a question that requires an answer. I think that reference that you made, and which you kind of continued with the conversation of why do I need to remember dates? Why do I need to remember, let's say, the table of multiplication, right? 2 times 2 or 9 times 9, like in a basic first grade in Soviet Union or second, I don't remember. Right? You had to know that like by heart. Wake up in a sleep, that. Right?
Sure.
And I'm good with numbers. I can do like double-digit numbers, multiplication, and all that. Do I need to remember that? Because it will take me a second or less to get it on a calculator. I guess the question there is, knowing more, does it open up more for you to know more? Or by knowing more, you're almost closing yourself from adding more, wider or deeper on certain subjects? Because you have some... Einstein, I am sure, and this is just talking out of my skirt, I'm sure he was incredible at physics and some surrounding disciplines, but he probably sucked at, I don't know, geography or history or, some famous ancient authors like Pushkin, Russian, right, that died in 33, Shakespeare. They were incredible with literature and a word, vocabulary. They probably really sucked at math and chemistry.
I'm sure he was somewhat limited.
So that's a question. Does the breadth of the knowledge and consumption, does it open up more breadth of kind of the cone of data coming in, or does it close down so you have no more room for other? I don't know the answer.
The cone of data.
That was a big word for an immigrant, right?
Wow, the concept. This goes back to when I was a kid, and I would ask my dad, why do I need to know this?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like this. Why do I even need this?
Right.
And then he would struggle for an answer.
Yes.
You need to be well-rounded.
Right.
And so, therefore, you need to know this in order to make you. That was the answer. So, but I didn't have any other. We did.
Wait, when you were growing up, you didn't have a mobile phone?
Well, you'd be surprised how little we had. But we did have the encyclopedia, which I thought was fascinating.
So just to maybe highlight the name of our podcast, Redneck and Immigrant. You're not a redneck. Well, I'm an immigrant, but I'm a proud redneck with a funny accent.
Right.
So that's my introduction. I'm a Southerner. And funny thing about growing up in where I grew up in Soviet Union, the original evil empire, not what we name nowadays some others, right? There were some incredibly bad things, especially with history of Soviet Union, and incredibly good things. But one anecdote that I want to double down on is some of the technology advancements, whatever you want to call it, from rotary phone to large computer systems, we were sort of like a decade or two behind. Not everywhere. We had some, we put the Sputnik in 1957. We put, Yuri Gagarin into outer space. So, but there are certain aspects of technology. So when you said you'll be surprised what we didn't have, I won't be, because I was a decade or two behind you on certain things.
Classic Russian sports cars.
Yes.
Can't think of any.
Lumber. That's
It starts with an L.
Lamborghini. Lada. There you go. Hey, my man.
Yeah.
That's what I like about you. Listen.
I saw a list of Russian cars once, and I thought, this is it. You people know.
Well, it's interesting, and if you want, so we kind of had a virtual handshake that one of our next podcasts or conversations. Let's focus on this whole AI news and all that. But if you're curious, and that will actually go really into our heading around Redneck and Immigrant, I would love to, because I know I've read more than I care to admit about Soviet Union and all the sort of surrounding history of that. And I would almost want to have a conversation around this whole concept of empire. Is it good or bad? And we can kind of go into, we can start with, we can obviously go Roman Empire, we can talk about Austro-Hungarian or Ottoman, but, Soviet as an empire. And then it could lead in the maybe little controversial ground about, United States, are we an empire or not? And but more importantly, it's not about that, are we or not, but is it bad? Is empire bad? Because I think if we listen to majority of news channels, if not all, it implies that empires are bad. I have a different point of view to that, very different.
I think that all that subject matter does imply the evil preempts empire.
Yeah, and that's where I think I have a different point of view, which I think could create interesting, when I say controversy, but different points of views on that.
Well, but let's not get too far ahead of this subject matter.
We're still on this.
I mean, this is a multifaceted thing. Mental health.
Yeah. For crying out loud, you hear kids committing suicide. Okay, God forbid from anyone. Yeah. The worst thing that could happen to a parent is that, God forbid, and you hear it because somebody felt that they're being, from bullied to their body construct, weight, height, look, whatever, to fitting in, or it's just incredible how this thing, this 4 to 6 inch thing, makes or breaks our lives, literally.
Well, the kids call it FOMO, which means fear of missing out.
Yeah,
and
I knew that one.
Look at the lifestyle.
Yes.
Of their
so-called peers. So-called. That's important.
That's right, because it's not in fact a peer group, and they think, my life pales.
I don't have a life.
Well, this is not exclusively teenagers. This is adults as well.
Yeah, but impact on their developing mindset is very different than your and mine.
That's right.
Yes, I could look at, Elon Musk, right? $700 billion, trillion. Oh my God, I will never be that. Right? But it doesn't mean I'm suddenly, well, I am actually, I'm a 14-year-old boy in a high school locker room. No, joking aside, the impact could be devastating on a forming mindset that has not been developed. I don't think our brains are, you could argue that they stop developing. I think they continuously developing until as we allow it to develop, right? You can learn new language today if you put your heart to it. It may be a little bit longer or more, less or more, but you could do some, right? So, but I think the teenage kids, right? If I may call them, I don't know what age group, from 5 when they start playing with to 20, 21, 22 until they finish university and college, their minds are still forming. And suddenly you have this others that are influencing them in such a way that leads to some dramatic, if not, just horrific things that could happen to them. And that's I don't know if we have a point. I think we talk, but I don't know if we can say, so like this proverbial corporate lingo, forgive me for a moment, so what, now what? The reality is, we can't change this. It just is. The disruption, the technology disruption, and anything we can talk about, from U.S. Steel in earlier last century, to Bethlehem Steel, and then suddenly the disruption started, and we no longer or computers. You have these big mainframes, then you have laptops, now you have phones, and right. So disruption of our humankind with those new devices, they're not new anymore, but it started. So it's unstoppable. It's more around trying to guardrail to the best of our abilities on the usage and the effects of it. So schools prohibiting, kids can still use it probably in a bathroom or whatever, hallways, probably, right? Yeah. But it's more around putting some guardrails around the effects of it. And I think it comes a lot from, how we parent our children to make sure that obviously they're loved and protected, that the outside influences that are inevitable. When you and I were growing up, our outside influences were school and our neighbors, right?
Three TV channels.
No, I'm saying outside, they were literally outside influences. Here, they're outside.
Yeah.
It could be from China or Armenia or Costa Rica or West Coast of United States.
Yeah. Well, to the original point, yes, I can get to California today if I wanted to.
And you'll still complain.
I will complain about how it's nice.
Yeah.
So it's about perspective and keeping things in perspective and the amazing advantages and
yes.
how informed we all are now ad nauseum. But it comes with a price to pay.
Sure.
And that is what we should continue.
Absolutely. So
we put a bookmark here.
We put a bookmark here. I shake your hand. And listen, before we do this, let's just think. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to keep your hand. Oh, thank you. If you're watching, listening to us, we're so incredibly grateful. Honestly.
Who are you talking to?
That person, that person that could conceivably. No, in all seriousness, thank you. We appreciate this. We are not that smart or good looking or what have you, but I love Jim for a couple of decades. I don't think the feeling is mutual, but we intend to, we kind of discuss topics from various. Jim is incredibly smart and eloquent, and I always enjoy talking to him about anything from Bible to smartphones.
Do I have
and
to
somehow
give you money now?
No, after.
Yeah.
That's the after part. Okay. So thanks a lot, and we'll talk to you next time.
All right. Cheers.